Hello everyone and welcome to our Naviate new release webinar, release 2023.2. Thanks for joining. We are two people here today, Caroline Tigersjö and me, Thomas Nilsson. So a few news in Naviate Road. We've changed some things in import assembly. Missing an L, I see. It imports the code set style from the assembly. We have created a new command called create reverse profile, which reverses a profile from end to start. We also have a new command, profile views from multiple alignments, which allows you to select a number of alignments and create one profile view for each of those with the same setting instead of running the same command multiple times. This command was actually new in the previous version, but we made some fixes and changes to it. It's check profile tangency, allows you to check element tangency in each PVI of a profile. We also added a command called PVIs to corridor, which adds profile PVIs as manual corridor stations. And this is important if you have a profile that is used as a target in your corridor, because the PVIs of that profile does not automatically create a station in that corridor. So this tool helps you fix that. This is the import assembly dialog. What's new here? I hope you use this one to manage, distribute and update your assemblies. What's new is or are those two buttons down here. We got the request from customers to be able to use the code set style that is assigned to the specific assembly in that drawing file. Today it uses previously it uses the default code set style for assemblies in the current drawing. Now you can push this one in, and we're going to import everything from it. So if it's changed in this one, we're going to import all settings into the current drawing file. We also allow you to push the corridor code set style, because sometimes for this assembly that you have selected, you need a specific code set style for the corridor to make it look nice. And by clicking this one as well, we're going to read the settings for the create corridor command and create simple corridor command. Those two commands, we're going to check which code set style that is assigned to those two corridor commands, and we're going to set that code set style as default in your current drawing, which means from your assembly file you can push which corridor code set style that's going to be used when you create a corridor from it. So this is going to help you manage your stuff. I'll jump over to my drawing file. I'm going to show some of the news in here. I'm going to start with the check tangency. I have intentionally made sure I have a tangency violation here. This one is okay because it's a curve. There I don't have a curve. It's going to find that tangency error. I can label it with any of the existing marker styles and labels that I want to. We leave that label in there until you run this command once again. Then those labels are automatically removed, so you can see if you have any tangency errors. Otherwise, we present the station and elevation for that certain PVI. Next thing was the reverse profile, which is a new command. So it allows you to select a profile, and just create a reversed copy of it. Because there is a command in Civil to reverse an alignment, but it doesn't reverse the profile. So now it's possible using Naviate. Next thing here is the function to create profile views from multiple alignments, also request that we've had. So I have 3 alignments here. Actually, it's offset alignments, but you can see all 3 alignments are presented here. So I can select any of the alignments I have. I can create surface profiles from the surfaces within the drawing, change the settings and whatever I want to change, labels, styles and so. Set the name for the profile view to be created, which profile style and band set and so. And we can also create a finished ground profile. I'll make this magenta colored so we can see what happens. I'll just run the command. We also had a setting on how much to separate the different profile views. So you see it creates a profile view for each of the alignment with the settings that we set, and it created a design profile that you now can just edit to your request. So it's a simple way of setting up multiple profiles. Or profile views. The add PVIs to corridor command is here. I'll come to that one later when I talk about landscape, because it's actually a part of another command. That's the base of the road news. Scan through them. Over to pipe news. One request that we've had is to be able to enter a slope as 1 in X. So we anywhere we prompt for a slope within or a pipe slope within Naviate commands, either if it's a dialogue or if it's a command-based program or command line based, you can enter like this. 1 in 5, we're going to interpret it as 20%, for instance. You can also do the vice versa, 5 in 1, but yeah, it's going to be interpreted as a percent value. The raise lower parallel pipes command, we had some request of restructuring that one. It was a bit illogical. We could agree on that one. So we changed the workflow within here, moved some stuff to make it more logical. You select your pipes to follow, you select how to treat the settings, and down here you set the filter and preview the settings that you've made. So if you're familiar with this command, it's going to be a little bit easier to run it from now on. There's no technical changes in it. Offset pipe network and dynamic 3D polyform network, those 2 commands, they share the same dialogue actually. Now it remembers the start command, also wish we had. So what you selected here, it's going to remember. And we also added project to profile view. So if you create a polyline or feature line, you can immediately project that line to a profile view. Those were the pipe news. Over to Naviate Landscape. Looking into 3D measure, we have done some changes to that one. For instance, we added possibility to scale objects differently, or X, Y, and Z for the objects. We also added 2 new methods. The method we had previously was exact interval. It follows the exact interval you enter. Now we have even number by segment length, which means it's going to divide the length of each segment in the line that you've selected and create an even number of the interval that you've set. So for instance, if you have a 9 meter long segment and you say a 5 meter interval, we're going to insert objects at 0, 4.5, and 9. So we make sure that it's an even number by that segment. And interval and direction by chord length. This is interesting because it makes the objects connect by the length of a chord. So it I better show that one. It's very tricky to explain that one. So I'll use this drawing here. I'll run up. So I think I'll go to the landscape. I'm going to do 3D measure along this auto corridor feature line. I'm going to browse to find a 3D block. Note that we have 3D blocks supplied. This one says it's 2.3 meters long. So I'm going to set the interval 2.3. I know I will need to rotate this one 90 degrees. I'm going to use the exact interval. This is what happens. If I now zoom in, you'll see that they don't really connect because there are different directions in these line segments. It's even worse up here. So I select no, do not accept that one. I want to do the interval and direction by chord length, which means if you look at this 2D representation here, it's going to cross over here instead. So let's try that one. So you see it crosses over and it ties in perfectly in each combination of these here. Looks much better. So I'll say yes, I'll do a little fiddling here as well, just to show this one. And once again, 3D measure, this one here, try to show the same thing. If I do exact interval on this one, you can see that this is what happens because it's placed on every direction or every point. I do no. I'll do another thing here now. I'll use the even now. No, actually, I'll do that one first, and you'll see what happens. So now it takes a turn here because it's too long to fit there, so it's going to go there instead on that one. So, but that one makes a strange end because it passes in the end. If I now do no, and I use this alternative, even number by segment length and adjust scale, which means we will change the scale slightly to make all objects fit, which looks very good in this case. Just to show an alternative, I'm going to use road light. I'm going to remove the angle. I'm going to set an interval of 5, and I'm not going to use the adjust scale. This is how you would use when you have these kind of objects instead. You see it turns or shifts each object in the corners and fits automatically in there. Okay. Line style library. So if you've seen that command, I'm going to exceed 1 minute, Caroline. Just want to show this one. The line style library now adds hatches and property sets automatically. I'll show this in this one here. So it'll zoom out. I'll do a line style library command. I'll select my example. I'll do a grass area. So this is a CSV file with a number of settings. For each object, I have settings for how the line type should look, how the hatch should look, how the property set should be added to this one. So I will do this quickly. So you see it's selecting automatically the line style and color. If I now go to hatch selected object, it hatches it with grass. Now I have a large scale. There are annotators. If I change the scale, those will change. And we have add property sets to the selected object. So now it adds the property set that I've set down here and sets the values from that file. This is quite powerful actually, because it's going to read the settings from this other CSV file. We're actually connecting the line style library command and the plant data command to make sure that we import the plant data property set command so we can quantify everything immediately. So this needs a bit of setting up, but we have some examples for it. Just wrapping up.
I'm just going to interrupt you there because we got a question if it's possible to change the predetermined line types and layers in line style library. And yes, it is. It is a CSV file, so you can edit it as much as you like or create your own.
Yep. So it's just to modify that file. It's meant to be editable. So it's just to open an Excel spreadsheet and edit whatever you want and add things. We plan to add possibilities of changing and adding in this UI. But right now it's we recommend Excel to edit. Schedules, we now have an add label, which makes it easier to add schedules from or for single objects. And finally, the stepped profile command that we use to, for instance, create profiles for retaining walls and such. We've simplified the selection of vertices because it was very difficult to sometimes pick the exact alignment PI or vertex. So when you pick, we help you select the exact vertex if you want to. Also, the add PVIs command now has ability to select baseline and region, which was a request from customers.
I'm going to start by showing our brand new commands about view frame zoom. So the thing about view frame zoom, I'm just basically going to show you how it looks when we're sort of done with it. What we wanted to do with these commands is to give a tool where we can create multiple layouts. And the problem with creating multiple layouts, or the problem that we wanted to solve, is if I have this kind of view frame structure where I have multiple view frames, I need to create one layout for each. And I want to have these viewports. I need to zoom into the viewports. I need to rotate the viewports. And I need to do this multiple times. For my example right now, I have 5 drawings that I want to do. And I also have profile viewports. So I want to combine this. I have a plan viewport and I have a profile viewport. So I need to do this in both, and then when I go over to the next drawing, I need to move them around. So it's a process that you need to do that I assume everyone here is pretty comfortable with, or at least know how it does. So we create a tool that can do this for you. So once I have everything set up, I start our view frame zoom command. So the view frame zoom command works from a view frame file, and that is what we're seeing in the background here. In the view frame file, I have prepared layout names. So basically what I do is I want to have this one should be my R1. I have a plan and profile viewport, which I can see here, and I want to do zoom layout name. And it zooms in and rotates. If I just zoom out a little bit, you can see what it's actually doing. Zooming in, rotating on these. What it also does, if you take a look at the overview, it turns on and off layers. So right now I only see the hatch for the view frame that I'm in. And it does the same in my plan. In the profile, it doesn't matter. So at the same time as it's zooming in, rotating, it's also turning on and off layers depending on the view I'm in. If I just do zoom again, you can see that's coming back here. If I now want to do the second one, I can select my copy tab down here, down at the bottom. I can do zoom layout name again, and you will see that I get a new layout. So I get my R2 down here. And in my R2, it's zooming into the second one, the second layout, and it's turning on and off the layers to match on my overview. So that is what the command does. And of course, you can do this manually. You can sort of go through your different tabs. It doesn't have to be tabs. It can be individual drawings as well. But the main thing here is not to do it manually. The main thing that I wanted to do is to create a script to run this. So if I'm just going to go back. So I'm going to close this one. So I'm going to go back to how it looked before I started. So now I don't have any layouts. I'm not zoomed in anywhere. I'm just going to go back and start the view frame zoom command again. Yes, we will get there. Just to say, I just saw the question there. So if I don't want to do copy tab, I can do rename tab and save as. That means it's going to instead create a copy of this. So I'm going to show this by doing my rename tab. I'm going to select them all. I want to create all of my drawings, and I'm going to select a folder where I want to save these drawings, and then I'm going to do create script. So create script, and it's going to store it in the same place. I'm just going to do it like that, and I get my script. So it's creating the script for you. It's not running the script, but it's creating a script for you so that you can run it any way you like. Because I can do this inside the program, which I'm going to show you right now. So if I just close this out, this is the normal Civil 3D script command that I'm using. But we just added it here on our layout tools just to make it easier for you to find all the commands. So script, I'm going to run my script, the one I created just now, 1043, click open, and it's running to the script. So what it's basically doing is taking copies of these drawings, it's zooming in, rotating, saving it, turning on and off layers, moving on to the next one. So now it's done. So in my drawing right now, I have these 5 drawings that is just created for me. If I open the third one, we can see that it's actually creating same thing that I did, but it's only that it's separate layouts in separate DWGs. Or you can have multiple layouts in one DWG, doesn't matter. It's also closed, it's also locking the viewports, but it's turning like that. So that is the basis of the program, really, what it does. Right now, I ran the script inside here, so you can run it inside Civil. It's not a problem. But if you want to do it really fast, then you do it either by a script, any script machine that you have, or you can run it by batch save utility, or you can run it by ACAD core. Both of those don't use the graphical interface of Civil 3D, so you only get sort of the hardware in the background. I did a test where I created 120 drawings. It took about 5 minutes. So it's very fast if you run it in ACAD core. A little bit slower inside Civil 3D, only because it needs to load the graphical elements, so it takes a little bit more time. So that is the goal of the command that we're doing. I have a couple of minutes more, so I just want to show you the base of where sort of the magic comes from. So I'm going to close these, and I'm going to go back to my viewport file. And again, all the details will be explained on in January, but I'm going to show you the base of what we're doing. So we're working with 2 different files. We have a view frame file and we have a viewport file. The view frame file is where we have all our view frames. This could be an individual file or it could be your model file. It doesn't matter. It could also be the same as the viewport file. So you can do it any way you like. You have these view frames. Right now I'm using blocks, but you can use any way you like. We have commands that can create these view frame blocks if you need that assistance, or you can use your own. All of these view frames have a property set on them. The property set is the magic. The property set tells me which layout it is. It tells me what viewport it is. So multiple layouts can have one layout can have multiple viewports. That's what I was going for. So you can see here that I have my R1 and it's called plan. If I take a look at my profile, I have an R1 that's called profile. That is what we have here in the view frame file. I also have my hatches, and the hatches are also created by our command hatch view frame. So it helps you create these hatches and placing them on individual layers, so it's easy to turn off and on. To add these viewport sets, we have view frame property set. So it actually imports the property set and it is and places it on them, and then you need to fill it out. So view frame property set to add it to your view frames that we're doing here. So that is for the view frame file that we're working with. For the viewport, it's very similar. You have your viewports, normal AutoCAD viewports. The viewport has a property set. And the important part here, the only thing that you need to add is viewport name. So the viewport name here is where we match to the view frame in the view frame file. So it finds the plan in the view frame file and matches it to this viewport. And if we take a look at my profile, it's a profile viewport, so it matches to the profile viewport and then creates the different layouts. So that is how we run it through. You can then do a lot of other things. You can turn it off, you can rotate, you can sort of fix this. You can have, I noticed we got a question about scale. You can have a fixed viewport scale, but otherwise it will zoom according to the view frame size. So the view frame size is important, the actual rectangle that we're using. But otherwise you can also say that, well, it should be this specific scale. Then you can set that fixed viewport scale. That means that it's going to use the viewport scale that you've set before. So we have all these different options because we noticed that we need to have different tweaks depending on the method that you're using. But again, this will all be made clear either in text form on Pinnacle or in January, and you'll get those links in just a few minutes. I think that was it. I don't want to go into too much details because there's a lot of details and it's fun details, but today was just about a tease. I think that was it. Did I miss anything, Thomas? Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so, really.
No.
The important thing here to understand is that this command is very, I mean, it looks a bit like the plan production tools in Civil, but this does not require an alignment. You can create any combinations of your view frame. If you want to follow an alignment, that's possible. If you want to follow a pipe network or just columns and rows, it's just to set up whatever you want. I'm gonna browse through the majority of the news, maybe not all, in traffic. I'll start off by maybe I got a good zoom there. I'll zoom in like this here. I'll do the sign holder manager. So I've inserted this sign here. A few things here. A request we had from customers was to be able to set status on individual signs. So now you can set that. It's going to have the same list as we have up here. And those are all editable. Right now you need to tweak the JSON files, but it is possible to add and remove stuff in here. And those appear on reports, of course, the tables that we create of the signs. Another new thing here is this one here, adjust to highest sign. So if I unclick that one and I change the elevation of this one to 5 meters, you're going to see that the pole does not react to the sign. This is what happens in the existing version today, or the 23.1 and earlier versions. If I select adjust to highest sign, it's going to adopt to that one immediately. And if I change, it's going to follow every change I make. To make this work in the section view, because quite often we use a block in the section view, there is also a setting here for the sign holder additional settings. Y scale from height. So we're going to check that that one matches. So you need to click that one if you have existing section settings or sign holder settings. Next thing here is elevation clearance. You might notice this arrow here. So this one appears on all signs in 3D. It's actually there in 2D, but you don't see it. And we have a new column down here, or a row, that's called clearance. So I see I have 1.73 clearance. to the lowest of my reference surface. So I can change that one as well. And if I change the value, you see that everything updates and is moved upwards. I'm going to move on to add a sign here to look at some other features. First, if I select a sign here now, we've changed the way we handle size parameters. It's basically the same, but we save the settings for each individual sign. So this one says size parameter read from A1 JSON. So it knows that the last time I used that sign, I had these settings. If I click on one that I never used, it's going to say no default size found, use sign size table. So I click that one and notice that it remembers where I was the last time I used this command. Previously, you always needed to expand everything in here. Now it remembers. So I'll accept that one. I'll insert that one. And now we come to how to select the correct position. And here we've had some notes. I believe that Håkan, I see you were, in the audience, you had some ideas about how to treat this. The method that we fell for is the following. We have now allowed you to be able to copy a value, paste a value there, and make a calculation. So you can copy the bottom elevation from the other sign and say it's going to be 10 centimeters lower. So you can do calculations every time. Same here, if I want to change the elevation bottom, I want to raise it, I can do plus 0.1. It's going to move that one upwards. So it's very easy to manipulate things right now, much easier than previously, and we think that it's easier to do these manually things. Another request from Håkan was to make sure that the lowest sign was at the leftmost. And we didn't want that to be automatic, because if you look at a portal or gantry, then you want them to be left to right instead. So it's not sure that it's left to right that is the correct one. We can now move the columns here, and when you close and enter back, that's going to be remembered, the order that you have here. So closing out of this one, moving to the new command here, check sign elevation. This one works similar to the clearance value that I had, but it works in a different way. We have the possibility of selecting which sign to verify or check, or you can pick using this button, and you can also do zoom to maybe enter here and select the zoom. It's going to zoom each specific sign. I'm going to select to set a reference point, because normally you have a reference point somewhere on your main surface. So in this case, I'm going to pick perpendicular to a line there. I'm going to zoom out also. I'll do the edge of the road there. And now you see the elevation and side values being presented in the dialog and also in the graphics. It now says that the rule says it should be 3 meters to this one. I'll do an arrow now. I'll move this sign. It's 3.29. If I do move sign, it's going to move to the left. But that's not the sign I want to compare, actually. It's this one. You see it moves. Everything moves. It now says it's 1.6 meters from our reference point. It must be 3. So I do move sign holder. It moves to the right. Every value updates. The elevation clearance here should be between 1.6 and 1.8. And if I now want to change this one, I select to move all signs or just one, elevate, and they are lowered. And now I'm fulfilling the requirements. A tool that's been asked by a few of our customers. Next news is in insert sign holder. I'm going to work with a board. I'm going to pick that one. And I'm going to pick my portal, a truss portal, truss or fackverk. Sorry for that word in English. And no, not that one. I'm going to do additional settings. So new thing in here is the array button here. So this portal is built by a truss that's actually created in a 1x1 square or cube, and it's going to be scaled according to those scales here. But we're going to tweak this scale to make it fit the height and width. I'll explain when I've inserted this one. So yes, insert. I want to follow the center. I want to follow this alignment and do the insertion there, accept the rotation. I pick this section block there, no rotation like that. And as always, I forgot to set the surface, so I go into the manager again, and now you see it where it is. And now you see the clearance. Here the clearance is much better to work with in here because it's a clearance down to the road. So you need that surface, of course. And if I now want that one to be 4 meters, I change that one. And now, of course, I can do adjust to highest sign, and that one is going to adopt to this as well. And notice that even though I now have a very uneven value, we still match this because we actually just changed the scale of each cube. I mean, it's been inserted multiple cubes here actually, but the said scale of those has been slightly adjusted to make sure that it works perfectly. Same if I change this one to 8.78. That's going to update and work because we just adjust the scale and you cannot see a difference here. Next thing is support of 3D objects. So we can now project actually any 3D object. Please note that you can add to any of these folders here, you can add blocks and signs. It's just to add them there as DWGs, and if they're constructed correctly, they will appear and work. So I'm going to insert, so you see we have created a number of traffic lights. I'm going to insert a traffic light. I'm going to turn off my snap and insert it there. You see it appears there. I'm going to insert another thing, a board block. I'm inserting it like that one there. Let's have a look at what happens. You notice that we had a clearance of each object. If I now select that sign holder, you will see the objects has been projected very nicely onto this portal. Also, we've changed the labeling, the attributes. Notice that I can change the attribute position. I can move them individually. I can also turn those on and off. So you can have some on different layers, so you don't have to see all attributes. Make sure to use this edit button if you want to edit attributes. Do not use the AutoCAD properties window, use this one. That's why we placed it in there. While we're looking at the ribbons. Also notice that we added copy, move, rotate, erase, sign holder, and sign. These commands actually just turn group selection on and off to make sure you use the correct way when you want to rotate either the sign or move either the sign or the sign holder. Also, labels, first the report, yes, sign report has been changed 2 ways. You can now select all signs. If you select all signs, it's always going to be all signs. So if you add signs, the report will update. We also added in the table a possibility to sort by any of the attributes that are available to the report. I'm going to try to wrap up this demo by showing some news in the labeling of line markings. So I'm going to, actually I think I'll select the alignment. I'm going to select a center line that has length 3, gap 3, width 0.15. Notice that we've added a column called label formula. So we got requests from people to have dynamically updated labels. So this label is built from width, length, and gap, and this is the label preview. So we're using these values to create this label. So see, it's 3.3 plus 3 there. I'm gonna add this one, and you see it appears. And now I'm going to label it. So I'll do label markings. Here we have some news as well. I'm selecting one of the labels, and notice that as I drag it along, it changes rotation. So let's insert that one there. Let's take another one. And maybe now say I want to have a relative angle of 90. So now it follows the object, but it's 90 degree. I can also have a fixed or absolute angle. I'll insert that one there. Now let's edit first the line marking. I'm going to change the gap to 6. Notice that the label preview now says 3 plus 6. If I click OK, all labels are updated to follow the changes I made. Please notice that the label only updates if you change the setting. Does not work if you change here, because it can be totally different. So you need to change this one to get the labels to update. Finally, that one, select labels. You can now select all labels or a package of labels, and we open the properties here so you can change whatever setting you want here. I think that those were the main things. Caroline, anything you believe I've missed?
No, we could just comment. You talked about how to add your own signs. If you click on traffic sign folder up on the ribbon, you will actually open the folder where you add signs, and there's also a little text document that explains how the signs should be created. You have a
how to add new signs. Yeah, in there.
It could be good to know that we have it there, so you have a couple of resources for you.
So all you need to do is actually to add this my signs. That's going to be appear in your sign holder, insert sign holder, and you add the blocks in here, 3D or 2D, and we're going to handle them. So thanks for attending. Let us know if there are things that you think we missed or that we should add into our Naviate. We have the ideation portal. Yeah. Under help, you have ideation portal. In this one here, you can click and you can go in here and add your IDs. And so we do look at those and add features according to your wishes. So please use that one. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.